The rise of weak men. How comfort, distraction, and lost purpose changed masculinity. Introduction. Throughout human history, one question has followed every generation. What creates a strong person? Is strength something we are born with, or is it something we build through experience, hardship, and responsibility? For thousands of years, societies understood one fundamental truth. A boy does not automatically become a man simply because he grows older. Age creates maturity in the body, but responsibility creates maturity in the mind. A man is not created by comfort. He is created by challenges overcome, by promises kept, by responsibilities accepted, by moments when life demands more from him and he chooses to rise. Ancient civilizations understood this. They created systems to transform young boys into responsible adults. They created teachers, mentors, initiation rituals, hardships, challenges, not because they wanted young people to suffer, but because they understood something about human nature. A person who is never tested never discovers their own strength. But today, we live in a world unlike any previous generation experienced. A world where almost every problem our ancestors faced has been reduced. Food is available instantly, entertainment is unlimited, communication is effortless. Technology has made life safer, easier, and more comfortable. These achievements represent human progress, but they have also created a new challenge, a challenge our ancestors never had to face. How does a person develop strength in a world designed to remove struggle? This is the story of modern masculinity. Not a story about blaming men. Not a story about saying the past was perfect. The past had many problems. But it is a story about understanding human nature. A story about why discipline matters, why purpose matters, why responsibility matters, and why every generation must answer the same question. Are we becoming stronger, or are we becoming comfortable? Chapter 1: The Lost Path from Boyhood to Manhood. For most of human history, becoming a man was understood as a transformation. A boy was not simply given freedom, he was prepared for responsibility. He was taught that life was not only about what he could receive, it was about what he could contribute. A young man had to learn how to work, how to endure hardship, how to protect others, how to control himself, how to carry responsibility, because society depended on individuals who could be trusted. The ancient world understood that character was built through experience. A person could not learn courage by reading about courage. A person could not learn discipline by talking about discipline. A person could not learn responsibility without carrying responsibility. The Greek philosophers understood this. The Stoics believed that difficulties were not only obstacles, they were training grounds. A challenge revealed who a person really was. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote about transforming obstacles into opportunities for growth. The lesson was simple. The obstacle in front of you may also be the thing that develops you. Ancient societies created warriors, craftsmen, leaders, and thinkers because they understood the importance of preparation. They knew that comfort alone could not create capable people. But modern society changed the journey. Many young men today experience a different path. They receive adult freedoms before developing adult responsibility. They have access to information before gaining wisdom. They have opportunities before developing discipline. The result is not that young men are incapable. The result is that many are entering adulthood without a clear process of transformation. The question becomes, what happens when a society gives people the rewards of adulthood, but removes many of the experiences that create adulthood? Because throughout history, responsibility was the forge where character was created. A man became dependable because people depended on him. A man became courageous because situations required courage. A man became disciplined because discipline was necessary. When necessity disappears, growth becomes a choice. And not everyone chooses growth. This is where the modern crisis begins, not with a lack of potential, but with a lack of pressure. Chapter 2: Why Ancient Sociocrode Strong Men. Ancient societies understood that strength was not automatic. It had to be developed. They focused less on creating comfortable individuals and more on creating capable individuals. They asked, what kind of person can survive difficulty? What kind of person can protect others? What kind of person can be trusted with responsibility? The Greeks had the concept of excellence known as erete. It represented the development of the highest qualities within a person: courage, wisdom, discipline, character. Aristotle believed character was created through habit. A person becomes courageous by repeatedly practicing courage. A person becomes disciplined by repeatedly practicing discipline. A person becomes trustworthy by repeatedly keeping commitments. This is one of the greatest differences between strong and weak individuals. Weakness is often built through repeated avoidance. Strength is built through repeated action. The samurai understood this principle. The warrior was not respected simply because he could fight. He was respected because he could control himself. A warrior controlled by anger was dangerous. A warrior controlled by fear was unreliable. A warrior controlled by selfish desires could not be trusted. The greatest battle was often internal. The battle against fear, the battle against laziness, the battle against uncontrolled desires. This principle remains true today. The man who cannot control himself will struggle to control his future. Ancient societies also understood the importance of mentorship. A young person needed examples. Someone who had already walked the path. Someone who could demonstrate what responsibility looked like. A boy learned not only from what men said, he learned from what men did. And this leads to one of the greatest challenges of the modern world. Many young men are searching for examples, but they do not always know where to find them. Chapter 3: The Comfort Revolution. How Convenience Changed Human Character. For thousands of years, human beings lived in a world where survival demanded strength. Life was uncertain. Food was not guaranteed. Nature was unpredictable. Danger was everywhere. Human beings had to develop skills because failure carried consequences. A person who wanted food had to work for it. A person who wanted shelter had to create it. A person who wanted security had to contribute to the survival of the group. Life constantly demanded adaptation. Then something extraordinary happened. Humanity began solving the problems that had controlled it for generations. Technology advanced, medicine improved, machines replaced physical labor, communication became instant, food became easier to access, entertainment became unlimited. The modern human inherited a world that previous generations would have considered impossible. A world of comfort, a world of convenience, a world where many struggles could be avoided. But every great achievement creates a new challenge. The same comfort that protects us from suffering can also protect us from growth. The human brain evolved in a world of scarcity. It developed to seek food, safety, and reward. These instincts helped our ancestors survive, but biology changes slowly. The world around us changed much faster. The ancient brain entered the modern world. Today, the brain that once searched for survival now searches for stimulation, a notification, a message, a video, a social media reaction, a new form of entertainment, small rewards available constantly. The problem is not pleasure itself. Pleasure is part of being human. The problem begins when pleasure replaces purpose. A person can spend hours consuming information about success without ever taking action. They can watch people build businesses without building anything themselves. They can learn about discipline without practicing discipline. They can study greatness while avoiding the sacrifices required for greatness. Information can create the feeling of progress, but knowledge without action creates an illusion. The purpose of knowledge is transformation. This is why mastery has always required something uncomfortable: practice, repetition, failure, patience, long periods where nobody notices improvement. Greatness is usually created in silence, but modern culture often rewards visibility. People want the results without experiencing the process. The ancient philosophers understood this danger. The Stoics believed people should voluntarily experience difficulty, not because suffering is good, but because dependence on comfort creates weakness. A person who never experiences discomfort becomes controlled by discomfort. A person who avoids every challenge becomes afraid of challenge. A person who escapes every difficulty never discovers what they are capable of. Consider two individuals. One avoids rejection, avoids failure, avoids responsibility, avoids difficult conversations. Slowly, their world becomes smaller. Another accepts discomfort. They apply for opportunities. They attempt difficult things. They learn from failure. Their confidence expands. The difference between these two people is not always talent. Often, it is exposure to challenge. Modern society has created a comfort paradox. We have removed many dangers that threatened humanity. This is a tremendous achievement. But humans still require challenge. The athlete chooses difficult training. The entrepreneur chooses uncertainty. The student chooses difficult learning. The disciplined person chooses restraint. When life does not force hardship upon us, we must choose meaningful hardship ourselves. The modern battle is different from the battles of the past. Ancient humans fought against external threats. The modern person often fights internal battles. The enemy is not always hunger. Sometimes it is excess, not lack of information. Too much information, not lack of entertainment. Too much entertainment. A powerful machine without direction cannot create progress, it creates chaos. Human potential works the same way. Talent without discipline is wasted. Opportunity without responsibility is wasted. Freedom without self-control can become a prison. The question every modern man must ask is, am I using comfort as a tool, or has comfort become my master? Because comfort is not the enemy. The enemy is surrendering control. A strong person can enjoy comfort but remain capable without it. The purpose is not to return to a primitive world. The purpose is to remember a timeless principle. Strength is created through resistance. A muscle grows because it faces resistance. A character grows because it faces challenges. A mind grows because it solves problems. The modern world has given humanity incredible comfort. Now the responsibility is learning how to remain strong while living with that comfort. But comfort is not the only force changing men. Another powerful force has transformed the development of young men, the disappearance of fathers, mentors, and traditional guidance systems. Because before a man learns how to lead others, he must first learn from those who came before him. Chapter 4: The Fatherhood Crisis. The missing teachers of manhood. Throughout human history, one relationship played a crucial role in shaping young men: the relationship between father and son. A father was not only a provider, he was a teacher, a guide, a protector, a model. A boy learned about life by watching the men around him. He watched how they handled pressure, how they treated people, how they responded to failure, how they carried responsibility. Children learn more from examples than instructions. A father can tell his son, be disciplined, but the example of his life teaches the stronger lesson. A father can say, be courageous, but if the child sees fear controlling every decision, the behavior becomes the real education. Throughout history, fathers and mentors introduced young people to responsibility. They taught how to work, how to solve problems, how to contribute, how to endure difficulty. A boy needs more than information. He needs formation. He needs people who show him what maturity looks like. This is why mentorship was so important in traditional societies. The apprentice learned from the master. The young warrior learned from experienced warriors. The student learned from teachers. Knowledge moved from one generation to the next. The psychologist Carl Jung explored the importance of psychological development and maturity. He believed human beings must grow beyond childish desires and develop a complete identity. The immature person asks, what can I receive? The mature person asks, what can I contribute? When guidance disappears, young people search for identity elsewhere. And in the modern world, much of that search happens online. The internet has created incredible opportunities. A young man can learn almost anything. But the internet also creates confusion. Not every voice offering advice is wise. Some voices teach discipline, responsibility, growth. Others teach blame, resentment, escape. A young man searching for purpose can find both wisdom and confusion. This is why mentorship remains important. A young man needs people who challenge him. People who expect more from him. People who help him become better. A society that wants strong men must first invest in raising strong boys. Because men are not created by simply telling boys they are powerful. They are created by teaching them. Your power has responsibility. Your choices affect others. Your actions have consequences. A mature man understands. Strength is not about controlling others. Strength is about controlling himself. But even with guidance, modern men face another powerful challenge. A world designed to capture attention. A world where distraction has become one of the greatest enemies of discipline. The next chapter explores the addiction to pleasure, how escape replaced achievement. Chapter 5: The Addiction to Pleasure. How escape replaced achievement. Human beings have always searched for pleasure. This is not something new. Pleasure is part of human nature. Food, friendship, love, celebration, rest. These things make life meaningful. The problem begins when pleasure stops being something we enjoy after building a meaningful life and becomes something we use to avoid building one. For thousands of years, wise societies understood a simple principle. Pleasure must be controlled. It must serve life. It must not become the master of life. The ancient philosophers often warned about the danger of becoming controlled by desire. They understood that the greatest battle a person faces is often not against another person. It is against themselves. A person knows they should improve. They know they should exercise. They know they should study. They know they should develop skills. They know they should take responsibility. But another voice appears, tomorrow. Not today. You deserve comfort. Choose the easier path. This is one of the oldest human struggles. The struggle between who we want to become and what we want immediately. The philosopher Plato described human beings as experiencing conflict between higher aspirations and lower desires. One part of us seeks wisdom, discipline, purpose, meaning. Another part seeks comfort, pleasure, escape. The mature person is not someone who has no desires. The mature person is someone who can govern those desires. The age of instant gratification for most of human history. Rewards required patience. A farmer planted crops and waited. A craftsman trained for years. A student studied before achieving mastery. A builder developed skills over decades. The process itself created discipline. Today, many rewards arrive instantly. Food can be delivered immediately. Entertainment is available instantly. Information appears within seconds. Social approval can be measured through numbers. These innovations have improved human life, but they have also changed human expectations. The brain becomes accustomed to immediate rewards. The danger is that many meaningful achievements still require patience. Building a career requires years. Building a relationship requires effort. Building physical strength requires consistency. Building wisdom requires experience. A person trained to expect immediate results may struggle with anything that requires endurance. The illusion of productivity. One of the greatest dangers of the modern age is confusing consumption with achievement. A person can spend hours learning about success. They can watch interviews, listen to motivational speeches, read books, follow successful people, and still remain unchanged. Why? Because information can feel like progress. But information is only powerful when it changes behavior. Knowing what to do is not the same as doing it. Understanding discipline is not discipline. Talking about courage is not courage. Studying success is not success. The world does not reward what we know. It rewards what we apply. This is why mastery requires action. The author Robert Greene has repeatedly explored the idea that excellence comes from long periods of practice and development. The person who becomes great is usually not the person who begins with extraordinary talent. It is the person who continues after others quit. The escape industry modern society has created an enormous industry built around keeping attention. Every platform competes for one thing: your time, your focus, your attention. A person can escape boredom instantly, escape loneliness instantly, escape uncomfortable thoughts instantly. But there is a hidden cost. When a person constantly escapes discomfort, they never develop the ability to handle discomfort. A person who cannot sit alone with their thoughts may never understand themselves. A person who cannot experience boredom may never create. A person who cannot tolerate difficulty may never achieve. Many great ideas throughout history came from moments of silence. Moments when people were forced to think, reflect, imagine, solve. Today many people fear silence. The moment there is nothing happening, the phone appears. The distraction begins. The uncomfortable thought disappears. But growth often begins in uncomfortable moments. Artificial achievement. One of the most interesting challenges of modern life is that people can experience the feeling of achievement without real achievement. A person can receive rewards in virtual environments. They can gain status online. They can receive approval from strangers. They can create an image of success. But real life still demands real achievement. A virtual victory cannot replace a meaningful accomplishment. Digital approval cannot replace self-respect. External attention cannot replace internal confidence. A person eventually has to answer, am I building a life, or am I building an image? Self-control and freedom. Many people think discipline removes freedom. The opposite is often true. Discipline creates freedom. A person who cannot control their impulses is not truly free. They are controlled by their emotions, their addictions, their desires, their environment. A disciplined person can choose. They can enjoy pleasure without being controlled by pleasure. They can rest without becoming lazy. They can celebrate without losing direction. The strongest people are not those who never experience temptation. They are those who can experience temptation and still choose their values. The modern man's iconscal battle. The ancient warrior fought enemies outside himself. The modern man often fights enemies within himself. Distraction, laziness, fear, instant gratification, self-doubt. The battlefield has changed, but the principle remains. A person must master themselves before they can master their circumstances. The question every man must ask is, am I pursuing what is meaningful, or am I escaping what is difficult? Because a life built around escape eventually becomes a life without growth. And without growth, confidence disappears. Without confidence, purpose weakens. Without purpose, a person becomes vulnerable. But pleasure is only one part of the crisis. Another deeper problem affects many modern men. Many have lost a clear mission. They have freedom. They have choices. They have opportunities. But they do not know what they are building toward. A man without purpose is like a ship without a destination. The ship may move, but it does not know where it is going. Chapter 6: The Death of Purpose. Why many men feel lost in the modern world. Every human being eventually asks the same questions. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Does my life matter? What will remain after I am gone? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs that a person is searching for meaning. Throughout history, strong individuals were usually connected to something greater than themselves. They had a mission, a responsibility, a reason to continue even when life became difficult. A soldier endured hardship because something mattered more than his own comfort. A parent sacrificed because another life depended on them. A builder worked because something valuable was being created. A scientist struggled because the search for truth was worth the effort. A leader carried responsibility because others depended on their decisions. The details changed throughout history, but the pattern remained. Human beings become stronger when they serve something beyond themselves. The human need for meaning. One of the greatest thinkers on purpose was Viktor Frankl. Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps. He experienced suffering beyond what most people can imagine. He lost his freedom. He lost his security. He witnessed terrible cruelty. Yet he observed something remarkable. Some people maintained inner strength even under extreme suffering. Frankl discovered that human beings can endure extraordinary difficulties when they have meaning. A person who has a reason to continue can survive circumstances that would destroy someone who has lost hope. This idea challenges one of the biggest assumptions of modern society. Many people believe happiness comes from removing all difficulty. But Frankl discovered something deeper. Humans do not only need comfort, they need significance. A comfortable life without meaning can become empty. A difficult life with meaning can become meaningful. Pleasure versus pleasure asks, what feels good now? Purpose asks, what is worth sacrificing for? Pleasure is immediate. Purpose is delayed. Pleasure focuses on consumption. Purpose focuses on contribution. Pleasure asks, what can I receive? Purpose asks, what can I create? A person who lives only for pleasure becomes dependent on circumstances. When life becomes difficult, they struggle. But a person connected to purpose develops resilience. Difficulty becomes part of the mission. The loss of clear responsibility for much of human history. Many men had clearly defined responsibilities. They were expected to provide, protect, build, lead, serve. These expectations were not always perfect. Some created unfair pressure. Some limited people's choices. Society has changed, and many of those changes created important opportunities. But one consequence of changing roles is that some men lost a clear sense of direction. A young man may ask, what defines me now? What makes me valuable? What responsibility should I accept? These are important questions, because a person's identity cannot depend only on external roles. A man's worth cannot come only from his job, his income, his social status, his appearance. A stronger foundation comes from character. Who are you when nobody is watching? What values guide your decisions? What responsibilities are you willing to carry? The need to be needed, one of the deepest human needs, is to feel useful. People want to know, my existence matters, my contribution matters, someone benefits because I am here. A person who feels unnecessary can gradually lose motivation. This applies to everyone. But throughout history, many men found meaning through responsibility. They knew, if I do not act, something important may fail. Responsibility creates urgency. Urgency creates growth. Growth creates confidence. The search for false purpose. When people lose genuine purpose, they often replace it with artificial substitutes. Status, attention, popularity, recognition. A man may chase money not because he values creation, but because he wants validation. He may chase fame because he wants to feel important. He may chase power because he feels insecure. But external achievements cannot permanently solve internal emptiness. A person can have everything society admires and still feel lost. True purpose is not about impressing people. It is about becoming useful. The spectator life. One of the greatest dangers of the modern world is becoming a spectator. A spectator watches others live. A participant creates his own life. A spectator watches athletes but never trains. A spectator watches entrepreneurs but never builds. A spectator studies success but never takes action. A spectator comments on the world but never contributes to it. Modern technology has created billions of spectators. People consume more than they create. They observe more than they participate. But a person cannot discover their potential by watching others use theirs. Strength is discovered through action. Nietzsche and the challenge of creation. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche explored the importance of creating meaning. He believed that individuals must overcome themselves. They must move beyond weakness, beyond fear, beyond passivity. His message was not that people should dominate others. His message was that people should overcome their own limitations. The greatest victory is often the victory over yourself. The person who controls their impulses. The person who develops discipline. The person who accepts responsibility. The person who creates instead of only consumes. That person becomes strong. Purity repures sacrifice. Many people search for purpose as if it is something they discover without effort. But purpose is usually built through commitment. A purpose worth having requires sacrifice. The athlete sacrifices comfort. The entrepreneur sacrifices security. The parent sacrifices personal freedom. The student sacrifices entertainment. Every meaningful achievement requires choosing something important over something easy. A man must eventually decide, what pain am I willing to accept? Because every path has difficulty. The question is whether that difficulty leads somewhere meaningful. Rebuilding your purpose is not found only through thinking. Purpose is discovered through action, through developing skills, helping others, building something, accepting responsibility, serving a cause, improving yourself. A man does not become valuable because the world tells him he is valuable. He becomes valuable by becoming useful. The crisis of modern men is not that they have no ability. Many have enormous ability. The problem is that ability without direction becomes wasted potential. A man with no purpose becomes vulnerable to distraction. A man with purpose becomes difficult to control. But purpose alone does not solve every challenge. The world itself has changed. The economy has changed. The meaning of work has changed. Many men are now asking a new question. If I am not defined by the old roles of the past, who am I? Chapter 7, Economic Change in the Search for Male Identity. For thousands of years, a man's identity was closely connected to what he could create. His work was visible. His contribution was obvious. A farmer produced food. A builder created structures. A craftsman produced valuable objects. A soldier defended his community. A father provided security for his family. A man could look at what he had created and understand his place in the world. His work gave him more than income. It gave him purpose, structure, respect, identity. But the modern economy transformed the relationship between men and work. Technology changed industries. Machines replaced many forms of physical labor. Digital systems replaced many traditional processes. The world moved from farms and workshops into offices, factories, and online environments. These changes brought enormous benefits. Human productivity increased. Many dangerous jobs became safer. New opportunities appeared. Millions of people gained access to careers that previous generations could never imagine. But every major transformation creates new psychological challenges. One of those challenges is identity. When work derived meaning for many men throughout history, work was not simply a way to earn money. It was a way to prove usefulness. A man could say, "I built this, I solved this problem, I created something valuable." The physical result of work provided a connection between effort and outcome. A carpenter could see the table he built. A farmer could see the harvest. A builder could see the structure standing. Modern work is often different. Many people spend their days working with information, data, systems, communication, digital processes. This work can be extremely valuable, but sometimes the connection between effort and outcome becomes less visible. A person may spend years contributing to something without seeing the final impact. This creates a deeper question. If my contribution is invisible, how do I measure my value? The changing role of the provider for generations. Many societies connected male identity with providing. A man was expected to create stability, support his family, protect those around him, carry responsibility. These expectations created pressure. Many men carried burdens silently. Many struggled under expectations they felt unable to discuss. But these responsibilities also gave many men a clear mission. They knew what they were working toward. Modern society has changed. Women have entered more areas of education, careers, and economic independence. This is an important social development. But it also means men must answer a deeper question. If providing is no longer the only measure of my value, what defines me? The answer cannot simply be money. Because a man's worth is not only measured by his income, it must also include character, competence, responsibility, contribution. The disappearance of traditional work across many parts of the world. Industries that historically employed large numbers of men have changed. Manufacturing, mining, heavy labor, traditional trades. Automation and globalization transformed these sectors. When a job disappears, the loss is not only financial. People can lose a daily routine, a community, a sense of pride, a feeling of being needed. A person who loses work may not only ask, "How will I survive?" They may also ask, "Who am I now?" This reveals an important truth. Human beings do not only need employment, they need contribution. The rise of economic uncertainty. Previous generations often followed predictable paths: education, employment, marriage, family, retirement. Modern life is more uncertain. Many young people face competitive job markets, changing industries, higher costs, longer journeys toward independence. Many young men feel trapped between two worlds. The old world says, "Become responsible, build something, provide." The modern world says everything is changing. Create your own path, freedom is valuable. But freedom without direction can become confusion. The danger of helplessness. Psychologist Martin Seligman studied a phenomenon called learned helplessness. His research explored how repeated experiences of failure or lack of control can lead people to stop trying. The lesson is powerful. A person who repeatedly experiences situations where their efforts seem meaningless may eventually believe, "Nothing I do matters." This mindset is dangerous. Not because circumstances are always easy. They are not. Life can be unfair. Opportunities are not equally distributed. Challenges are real. But strength begins when a person asks, "What part of this situation can I influence?" A man who believes he has no power becomes passive. A man who searches for what he can control begins rebuilding. From consumer to creator, modern economies encourage consumption. Buy, watch, subscribe, upgrade, consume. There is nothing wrong with enjoying the benefits of modern life. The problem comes when a person becomes only a consumer. Throughout history, many men found meaning through creation. They built, they repaired, they solved, they improved. A strong man asks, "What value can I create?" Not only, "What can I consume?" Creation builds confidence. Because every act of creation proves, I can influence the world. The new masculine identity. The modern man does not need to copy the past. The world has changed. The tools have changed. The opportunities have changed. But certain principles remain timeless. A man still needs discipline, purpose, competence, responsibility, integrity, service. He may not build with his hands, but he can build ideas, businesses, communities, solutions, knowledge, relationships. The mature man understands, my identity is not only what I receive, my identity is what I contribute. The modern world did not remove the need for strong men. It changed the battlefield. The challenge is no longer only physical survival. The challenge is developing character in a world full of comfort and uncertainty. But another battle has emerged, a cultural battle, a debate about what masculinity itself should mean. Some believe men must return to traditional values. Others believe traditional masculinity must disappear. Between these extremes lies a deeper question. What kind of masculinity creates men who are strong, responsible, and beneficial to society? Chapter 8: Masculinity Under Attack. The confusion of the modern age few subjects create as much disagreement in modern society as masculinity. Across the world, people are asking, what should a man be? What qualities define a good man? What parts of traditional masculinity should remain? What parts should change? Some argue that men have become too weak. They believe modern society has removed discipline, responsibility, and toughness from men's lives. Others argue that traditional masculinity created harmful expectations. They believe men should move away from outdated ideas of dominance and emotional suppression. Both sides are discussing something important, because masculinity is not simply about being male. It is about the qualities a man develops and how he uses them. The deeper question is not, should men be strong? The deeper question is, what should strength be used for? Strength without wisdom throughout history, societies respected strength. But strength alone was never enough. A powerful person without character can become dangerous. A wealthy person without morality can become corrupt. A physically strong person without self-control can become destructive. This is why many ancient traditions connected power with responsibility. The warrior was not respected only because he could fight. He was respected because he had discipline, he had honor, he had control over himself. A sword in the hands of a disciplined person can protect. A sword in the hands of an uncontrolled person can destroy. Human strength works the same way. The difference between a boy and a man. Immature masculinity asks, how can I prove my importance? Mature masculinity asks, how can I become useful? The immature man seeks attention. The mature man seeks contribution. The immature man wants respect without earning it. The mature man understands respect is built through actions. A boy asks, how powerful am I? A man asks, what responsibility comes with my power? This difference is the foundation of maturity. The identity crisis for generations. Many societies gave men clear expectations: protect, provide, build, lead, serve. These expectations were not always perfect. Some created unnecessary pressure. Some prevented people from expressing themselves. Society has evolved, and many changes have created greater opportunities. But change also created uncertainty. Many young men now ask, if I am not defined by old expectations, what defines me? This is an important question, because a person's identity cannot depend only on external achievements. A man who only feels valuable when he wins will collapse when he loses. A man who only feels powerful when others admire him becomes controlled by other people's opinions. True strength requires an internal foundation. The search for validation in modern culture has intensified the desire for approval. People measure themselves through followers, likes, views, comments, recognition. The human desire for acceptance is natural. Humans are social beings. We need connection. But there is a danger when external approval becomes the foundation of identity. A man who depends completely on approval becomes controlled by the crowd. His confidence rises and falls based on other people's reactions. A stronger foundation comes from asking, am I becoming someone I respect? Am I keeping my commitments? Am I living according to my values? The misunderstanding of emotions. One of the biggest debates around masculinity concerns emotions. Many men were traditionally taught, do not cry, do not show weakness, handle everything alone. This created problems. A person who cannot acknowledge emotions may struggle with relationships, communication, self-awareness, mental health. But emotional strength does not mean becoming controlled by emotions. There is a difference between emotional expression and emotional surrender. A strong man can say, I am struggling, and still say, I will continue. A mature man does not destroy his emotions, he understands them. He controls his response. Carl Jung and psychological maturity psychologist Carl Jung explored the process of becoming a complete person. He believed people must confront hidden parts of themselves, their fears, their weaknesses, their desires, their insecurities. A person who refuses to examine themselves remains controlled by unconscious forces. A person who understands themselves gains freedom. Applied to masculinity. A mature man does not deny weakness. He transforms weakness into strength. He does not pretend fear does not exist. He develops courage despite fear. The danger of resentment, one of the greatest dangers facing modern men, is turning pain into bitterness. Many men experience failure, rejection, loneliness, economic struggles, disappointment. These experiences are painful, but pain creates a choice. A person can use pain as fuel for growth, or they can allow pain to become resentment. A resentful man asks, who is responsible for my suffering? A mature man asks, what can I learn from this? Viktor Frankl demonstrated this principle through his life. He showed that even when people cannot control every circumstance, they still possess the ability to choose their response. Rebuilding masculinity. The solution is not destroying masculinity. The solution is developing better masculinity. Society does not need men who are aggressive without purpose. It does not need men who are passive without courage. It needs men who are strong enough to be responsible. The world needs men who protect without controlling, lead without dominating, speak with confidence without arrogance, show emotion without losing discipline, pursue success without losing morality. Strength is not about making others smaller. Strength is about becoming someone capable of lifting others. The greatest misunderstanding of masculinity is believing strength exists to prove superiority. True strength exists to carry responsibility. A mature man understands power is a tool, not an identity. The crisis of modern masculinity is not simply that men have lost strength. It is that many men have lost clarity. They do not know what strength should look like. They do not know what responsibilities they should accept. They do not know what purpose they should pursue. Before rebuilding strong men, we must understand the foundation of strength itself. Because strength does not begin with appearance, it begins with the mind, with beliefs, with discipline, with the ability to master yourself. Chapter 9: The Psychology of Weakness and Strength. Why some men rise while others collapse. Every human being faces difficulty. Every person experiences moments of uncertainty. Every life contains disappointment, failure, and suffering. The difference between strong and weak individuals is not that one group experiences hardship, while the other does not. Everyone experiences hardship. The difference is how they respond. Two people can experience the same failure. One person uses it as a lesson. Another person uses it as proof that they cannot succeed. The event may be the same, but the interpretation changes everything. The greatest battlefield of human life is often not outside. It is inside the mind. Before a person gives up physically, they often give up psychologically. Before a person loses direction, they often lose belief. Before a person stops trying, they often convince themselves that trying is useless. The mindset of weakness often begins with a way of thinking. A person begins believing, my circumstances control everything, my past defines me, my problems are impossible, someone else must save me. This mindset removes personal power. It places the entire future in the hands of external forces. But strength begins with a different question. What can I control? This does not mean ignoring reality. Life is not always fair. People experience genuine hardship. Some people begin with advantages. Others begin with serious disadvantages. Some problems cannot be solved quickly. But even in difficult situations, a person can still ask, what action is available to me? What decision can I make? What step can I take? The ability to search for control within chaos is one of the foundations of resilience. Viktor Frankl and freedom. Few people understood this better than Viktor Frankl. Frankl experienced one of the darkest periods in human history. During his imprisonment in Nazi concentration camps, he lost almost everything. His freedom, his possessions, his security, many people he loved. Yet he discovered something profound. Even when everything external was taken away, some people maintained an inner strength. They still chose their attitude, their response, their dignity. Frankl did not claim suffering was easy. He did not suggest that people should simply accept pain. His message was deeper. Human beings possess a final freedom, the freedom to choose their response. This idea is one of the foundations of strength. A strong person understands, I cannot control everything that happens to me, but I can influence the person I become because of it. The victim mindset and the responsibility mindset. The victim mindset asks, why is this happening to me? The responsibility mindset asks, what can I do now? The victim mindset focuses only on what was lost. The responsibility mindset focuses on what can be rebuilt. Again, responsibility does not mean blaming people for every problem. Some suffering is caused by circumstances outside our control. But surrendering all personal power creates another form of suffering. A person who believes they have no influence over their life eventually stops trying. Learned helplessness psychologist Martin Seligman studied a phenomenon known as learned helplessness. His research explored how repeated experiences of failure or lack of control could cause individuals to stop attempting change. The lesson was powerful. Sometimes the greatest prison is not the situation itself, it is the belief that nothing can change. A person may have opportunities available but fail to act because they have already decided it will not work. Strength begins when a person challenges that belief. The strong person says, it may be difficult, it may take time, it may not work immediately, but I will try. Discipline. The notion of strength. Many people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means restriction, punishment, a lack of freedom. But discipline is actually a form of freedom. A disciplined person is not controlled by every desire. They are able to choose according to their values. A disciplined man can say no to distraction, no to temptation, no to unnecessary comfort, no to excuses. Without discipline, a person becomes controlled by impulses. Their mood controls their actions. Their emotions control their decisions. Their environment controls their future. A person who cannot govern himself will struggle to build anything meaningful. The power of delayed gratification. One of the strongest signs of maturity is the ability to delay immediate pleasure for future benefits. A child asks, what do I want now? A mature person asks, what do I want more? The student sacrifices entertainment to learn. The athlete sacrifices comfort to train. The entrepreneur sacrifices security to build. The parent sacrifices personal desires for family. Every meaningful achievement requires choosing a greater future over a smaller present. Failure and the fear of trying. Many men remain weak not because they cannot succeed, but because they fear discovering they might fail. Failure threatens identity. A person thinks, if I fail, it proves I am not good enough. But strong individuals see failure differently. Failure is information. Failure is feedback. Failure is part of learning. Every successful person has a history of mistakes. The difference is they continued. Robert Greene's work on mastery emphasizes that excellence is developed over time. Greatness is not usually created by one moment of inspiration. It is created through years of practice, correction, persistence, learning, self-respect, and keeping promises. A person's relationship with themselves determines their confidence. Self-respect is not created by simply telling yourself positive words. It is created through evidence. Every time a person makes a commitment and keeps it, they strengthen trust in themselves. Every time they repeatedly break promises to themselves, that trust weakens. Confidence is built by proving, I can rely on myself, on battle. The greatest battle a man faces is often against his weaker self. The part that wants comfort instead of growth. The part that wants excuses instead of responsibility. The part that wants approval instead of integrity. Every man carries two possible futures. One future where comfort slowly destroys potential. Another future where responsibility develops strength. The difference is created through daily choices, small actions, small decisions, repeated over time. Strength is not built in one heroic moment. It is built every morning when a person chooses discipline, every evening when a person reflects, every moment when a person chooses what is right over what is easy. But understanding weakness is not enough. A society cannot only identify the problem, it must provide a path forward. Men must know not only what went wrong, they must know what rebuilding looks like. How do we create men who are disciplined, purposeful, courageous, and responsible? How do we restore the qualities that allow individuals and societies to thrive? Chapter 10: Rebuilding the Modern Man.
The path back brain.
The story of weak men does not have to end with weakness. The story of modern masculinity does not have to be a story of decline. Human beings have always possessed the ability to transform. Individuals have rebuilt after failure. Communities have recovered after destruction. Civilizations have risen after collapse. The question is not whether men can become stronger. The question is, are they willing to accept the responsibility required to become stronger? Throughout this journey, we have examined the forces that have contributed to the modern crisis: the disappearance of initiation, the decline of mentorship, the rise of comfort, the addiction to distraction, the loss of purpose, economic uncertainty, confusion about masculinity, psychological weakness. But understanding the problem is only the first step. A person does not become stronger by simply identifying weakness. Strength comes from action. The first step, sip responsibility. Every transformation begins with responsibility. A man cannot change what he refuses to acknowledge. Responsibility begins with a simple understanding. My life is my responsibility. This does not mean every circumstance is your fault. Life is complicated. People experience situations they did not choose. People experience unfairness. People experience losses beyond their control. But even when circumstances are difficult, one question remains. What can I do from this position? The strongest people throughout history understood this principle. They focused their energy on what they could influence. Not everything they wished was different. Not everything they believed was unfair. But what they could build. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that wisdom begins by understanding the difference between what we control and what we do not. A person cannot control the past, other people's opinions, every external event. But a person can influence their effort, their decisions, their character, their response. Responsibility is the beginning of power. Rebuilding discipline. The modern world has created a unique challenge. There are more distractions than ever before. Therefore, discipline has become more valuable than ever before. A man without discipline is easily controlled. Controlled by his emotions, his impulses, his addictions, his environment. Discipline means becoming the person who can say, I will do what needs to be done, even when I do not feel like doing it. A man builds discipline through small promises. Wake up when you said you would, complete difficult tasks, exercise your body, develop your skills, control unnecessary desires. Every promise kept strengthens identity. Every commitment honored creates confidence. A strong man is not created by one dramatic decision. He is created through thousands of small decisions repeated consistently. Choose meaningful hardship. A comfortable life is not automatically a meaningful life. Human beings need challenge. The question is not, how do I avoid all difficulty? The question is, what difficulty is worth accepting? The athlete chooses difficult training. The student chooses difficult learning. The entrepreneur chooses uncertainty. The parent chooses responsibility. These struggles are not signs of failure. They are investments in becoming stronger. A person who voluntarily accepts meaningful challenges develops abilities that comfort cannot provide. Courage requires fear. Patience requires frustration. Discipline requires temptation. Wisdom requires mistakes. Strength is created through resistance. Find a mission. A man without purpose becomes vulnerable. Without direction, life becomes a search for distraction. A mission answers important questions. What am I building? Who benefits from my efforts? What am I willing to sacrifice for? A mission does not need to make someone famous. A meaningful life is not measured by attention. A man's mission can be raising children with strong values, mastering a profession, building a business, serving a community, creating knowledge, helping others, improving himself. Purpose gives suffering meaning. Build brotherhood. Strong people are rarely created alone. Throughout history, human beings developed through relationships. Mentors, friends, teachers, communities. Isolation weakens people. Healthy relationships strengthen people. A man needs people who challenge him, people who tell him the truth, people who expect him to improve. The idea that a person must succeed completely alone is an illusion. Even the strongest individuals were shaped by others. Master yourself. The greatest battle is internal. Before conquering external challenges, a person must learn self-mastery. Your anger, master your fears, master your desires, master your attention, master your habits. This does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming responsible for your emotions. A weak person asks, what do I feel like doing? A strong person asks, what should I do? That difference separates impulse from character. Become useful. A mature man seeks usefulness. Can people depend on me? Can I solve problems? Can I create value? Can I make life better for others? Competence creates confidence. The more useful a person becomes, the more valuable they become. Learn, practice, improve, build, contribute. The world does not need more people only seeking attention. It needs people creating value. Redefine strength. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about masculinity is the belief that strength exists to dominate. True strength exists to serve. A strong man does not need to make others feel small. He helps others become stronger. A strong man protects without controlling, leads without arrogance, speaks with confidence without disrespect, shows compassion without abandoning responsibility. Power without character creates destruction. Power guided by wisdom creates progress. The future of men. The future does not require men to return blindly to the past. The past had strengths. The past also had weaknesses. The goal is not to recreate history. The goal is to preserve timeless principles. The world needs men who combine ancient courage with modern wisdom, strength with compassion, ambition with humility, independence with responsibility. The greatest danger is not that men have become weak. The greatest danger is forgetting that strength can be developed. Strength is not a gift given to a few. It is a responsibility available to everyone. Every generation receives a choice. Choose comfort or growth. Choose distraction or discipline. Choose consumption or creation. Choose excuses or responsibility. The transformation begins with a simple decision. Stop asking, "What does the world owe me?" and start asking, "What can I contribute?" Because a man's true measure is not the comfort he collects. It is the responsibility he carries. It is the problems he solves. It is the people he helps. It is the character he develops when nobody is watching. A strong man is not a man who has never struggled. A strong man is a man who has struggled, learned, and continued. The world will always need men who can carry responsibility, men who build, men who protect, men who create, men who serve, because strong men do not only improve their own lives, they strengthen families, they strengthen communities, they strengthen civilizations. The path from weakness to strength begins today, not with perfection, not with pretending to have no flaws, but with a decision to become better than yesterday, to accept responsibility, to choose purpose, to choose discipline, to choose growth. Because in the end, masculinity is not measured by power. It is measured by responsibility. And the men who accept responsibility are the men who shape the future.